Istvan, I repeat what I said then. You are the best of possible friends. Thank you so much. As you've seen from the video, I'm a very fortunate person. I'm fortunate for many reasons. Hello, George. Welcome. Tommy Goat. It's my bag. Just move it. I'm very fortunate because, first of all, to have been born. I was born in Budapest during the war, and that obviously was not the best time to bring a child into the world. And then I was very fortunate after the war because my widowed mother had the courage to take her child out of communist Hungary and to escape to a country of freedom. In 1950, we landed in the United States. In 1956, we were then followed by over 75,000 Hungarian refugees who left as part of the 200,000 who left in 1956. And then I was very fortunate again because in 1994, I was able to come back to Hungary, and this time as the wife of the ambassador of the United States of America. One of the first official meetings we had, actually, it was a dinner that was given for us by then Foreign Minister Geza Jasinski. And the Foreign Minister proposed a toast to the newly arrived American ambassador. And he said, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for coming to Hungary, and thank you for bringing back to us your Hungarian-born wife, because she will be able to interpret to you not only our language, but our soul. And I hope I did that. And now, I'm very fortunate again, because Donald and I have become associated with the archives at Central European University, which is very important to us, because Donald and I strongly believe that the knowledge, excuse me, of truthful history is essential in a free and democratic and open society. And as Istvan has often said, we are what we remember. And as another wise man has said, those who do not remember history are condemned to repeat it. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Istvan, would you like George to make a few remarks first? All right. It's a great privilege and pleasure to be here with all of you this evening. Actually, we should thank you, not you thank us, because the opportunity for us to leave our papers here and to be associated in the future with Central European University and the Open Society Archives is a great privilege indeed. So we'd like to thank all of you, particularly George Soros. We would not be here at all, any of us, without George. John Shattuck, who's been a superb leader of Central European University for the past 7 or 8 years. And of course, Istvan Rev, who has developed this wonderful archive, which will clearly become one of the most important archives of its kind in the world. So it's an honor for us to be part of it, and we want to thank all of you for making it possible for us. I also want to thank Vera, because frankly, the thought that we would leave our papers with this archive rather than an archive in New York or Washington was Vera's idea, and she did the additional negotiations with John Shattuck and Istvan Rev, and that's ended up with our making this decision to move our papers here. You now have about 600 items from my papers alone, but I don't recommend that you read all 600 of them. Anyway, I'd like to read a brief sentence from Henry Kissinger, which echoes what Vera just said. Who is to quarrel with a people's interpretation of its past? It is only a means of facing the future, and what really happened is often less important than what is thought to have happened. So I want to get into a couple of issues that bring to mind why the archives are so important and so relevant. But first, let me say one thing, that I speak only for myself. I do not represent the United States government or any members of the United States administration. Only Colleen Bell, our ambassador, can speak for the United States in Hungary. So I'm speaking personally and for Vera and myself. We've heard a number of suggestions in recent days, recent months, that the United States is meddling or interfering with Hungarian internal affairs. If we go back to the 1990s, I have to plead guilty. We did meddle in Hungary's internal affairs because Hungary's future depended a great deal on what the United States and its Western allies could do to help. We helped Hungary privatize its economy. It was 25% private when we arrived here, 75% private by the time we left. We also enabled Hungary to join the Partnership for Peace, which led to an opening for NATO and future European Union membership. We helped the Hungarians develop their military to be capable of supporting Western defense and other obligations. And of course, we led the Hungarians into the peacekeeping operation in Bosnia with their successful operation of the base, the American and NATO base in Taszár, Hungary, which allowed more than 20,000 NATO troops to transverse Hungary into Bosnia for peacekeeping. On the domestic side, we also meddled a little bit. We got Hungary to make a restitution to Jewish survivors of the Holocaust. We've helped Ross Johnson, who's here this evening, to bring back the Radio for Europe papers from Munich to Hungary. And we also try to encourage a free press and a welcoming of democratic procedures in Parliament and in the court system here. So that, yes, the United States did meddle in Hungarian affairs in the 1990s. I'm glad we did, and I think the Hungarians, if they look back at their history, will appreciate that we did take an opportunity to get involved with their internal plans in the future. Finally, I'd like to suggest that two remarks that we've heard recently bear comment. One is the comment that Hungary should be a liberal democratic society. That, to me, sounds like an oxymoron. I'm not sure what it means, but one of these days we'll find out exactly what a liberal democratic society really looks like. I'll leave that to the future. But we also have heard that Hungary has to also observe Christian values. That's a lot clearer, and I think we can all recognize what those values might be, but I suggest that anyone who was in the United States 2 weeks ago when Pope Francis was there would recognize very, very clearly what Christian values are really about, and I recommend them to Hungary and its Hungarian leaders. So, once again, thank you all very, very much for joining us here on this occasion. We're pleased to be here, we're honored to be here, and we'd like to thank all of you for joining in this event with us. Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce this evening's keynote speaker, my good friend Bernard Kouchner. He is the founder of Médecins Sans Frontières, which combines looking after victims of oppression or violence with advocacy of human rights. He's a great advocate of human rights. He founded Médecins Sans Frontières in 1971 in response to the Biafra War, but he played a very important part in the Balkan Wars, and we have been friends for roughly 40 years, because we were close friends by the time it came to the Balkan Wars. I remember he was appointed governor of Kosovo. He did interfere. I visited him, and he was definitely somebody who interfered. And he did a very active and very successful job there. And we've been friends ever since. And the Médecins Sans Frontières has split into different branches. I remember working with Médecins du Monde. AMI was Aide Médicale Internationale, and there were some others as well. So it became effectively a very effective tool of this combining medical aid and advocacy of human rights. And I can't think of anybody who's really more qualified and more relevant to discussing these issues of human rights than Bernard Kouchner. So Bernard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rector, Mr. Director, Vera and Donald Blinken, dear George and Tamiko. Well, apparently George resisted to me after 40 years, and I resisted to him. So the worst is coming, because I have to talk about migration and the real problem of the migrant in this particular country. So I know that I have to be smooth, in the same time a bit politically incorrect. So what is happening to us? I say to us, to the European people mainly, but to the rest of the world. What's happening? Some people, have you seen the pictures just before I were coming in? Enfin, the audience was not seated. It's easy to understand. These people from Syria, from Iraq, from Eritrea, from the northern, a lot of nations are coming with their families, their children, their elders, with wheelchairs, and they are crossing the sea at their risk. They know very well what they are doing. And first of all, it will be impossible to stop such a flood. It will be impossible. They will come. And not only from the nations I quoted, but from other nations. Because there is a problem, and you know that problem, of globalization. Globalization of the people of the South and globalization of the answer of the North. So what are we supposed to know? You know certainly all the data I want to offer you. They are coming, and they will be, at the end of this year, in between 800,000 and 1 million. And they are mainly coming to Germany, and I want first of all to thank Madame Angela Merkel, because she saved the honor of European Union. Already, every day, some 10,000 migrants will qualify. They make the difference in between economic migrants and refugees. Yes, will do. But every day in Germany, close to 10,000 people are coming. And welcome, and accepted, and relocated. And it was a sort of strange attitude of the rest of Europe, and to be really politically incorrect. There was no answer, no common answer from the European Union. Not at all. They accepted some hundred or some thousand, sometimes by misfortune or by chance. But remember, the first demand addressed by the Commission of Brussels, the European Commission, was to share the burden. To share the burden, and it was absolutely the correct answer to such a flood. But they refused. We refused. European Union refused. Not the same way, not at the same magnitude, but we refused. Remember that it was the 3rd year of the coming of migrants, the 3rd year. And they were in the Mediterranean Sea, sinking in the Mediterranean Sea, dying in the Mediterranean Sea sometimes. It was the 3rd year. We reacted against what? Well, I don't remember exactly the name of the boat, but it was in April when more than 500 people were dying in the sea. Then after, the world reacted, and mainly European Union, because we were supposed to welcome or to refuse the people, when we discovered the body of the little child called Kurdi on the beach, on Turkish beach. So we reacted. The way we reacted is absolutely necessary to remember. We had the first meeting, European Union, where it was proposed, because the Commission from Brussels was maintaining its proposal, that is to say, let's accept these people and share in between the 28 countries because of demography, richness, and unemployment from all the countries together. And at that time, I remember, we were, the French, offered to take around 7,000. 7,000, what was it? Nothing. We didn't accept that. We were, the French and the Germans, supposed to convince the other. We felt completely. Fortunately, and let me, facing you and Vera, the way you left from Hungary and the people you, I remember the number, it was close to 600,000 or 700,000 people, and we accepted them, Hungarian people. Just remember that on this very day of building up the walls. We accepted. And Yugoslavia war, the result of this Yugoslavian war was in between 700,000 accepted also by European Union. And what about the Second World War? By millions we accepted. So this is, you have no listen to country after country to offer but our compassion and our acceptance to offer the end to the refugees. We did not. After 60 years of building up step by step the 6, the 9, the 12, etc., etc. After 60 years, close to 60 years of European Union, we were unable to offer a common answer. We were unable. So, of course, I'm not diluting or the desperate situation of European Union, but in a way, yes. Because if we were unable to offer the basic response, the basic answer of generosity, solidarity, what are we supposed to do? To share what? To share the power? We are unable. To share external affairs? We are, for the moment, till now, unable also. So the generosity was not only our culture, but the absolute necessity. So what's going on for the moment? Some northern countries like Sweden, not only Sweden, but some others, we have a big difference, sorry to come back a little, we have a big discrepancy, to be correct, in between the Eastern European countries and the Western European countries. Some are building up walls or fences, and the others are opening their borders. I know that sometimes, like Austria did the last 2 weeks, this is impossible not to control such a tremendous waves of people. Yes, sometimes we have to control, just to distribute our generosity, just to take care of that people. But look, my country, I told you that I was not representing, as Donald said, I'm not representing at all the French government. I protested a lot when they accepted for 2 years 24,000 persons. Meanwhile, the first weekend, Germany opened their doors to 25,000 persons. Compare one to the other. So some others are sharing more or less the perspective of having some refugees. But, oh well, the refugees, they don't want to come to France, mainly. Don't laugh. I know why. But, well, they are not volunteers to come to France. But some of them, when we are offering asylum to the families, they would come. The rest is what? The rest is that we have a legal obligation to accept refugees. Asylum seekers are not economic migrants. For economical migrants, okay, this is difficult, certainly, but for the time being, with all these people coming, because when you are asylum seekers, it means that you cannot come back to your country without the threat of being killed, or being tortured, or being not accepted at all. So that's our legal obligation, because we signed the Geneva Convention of '51. For the rest, the economical migrants are very poor people. They are flying out, of course, because of poverty. And that is not to say that we have to accept definitely in this globalization time the Geneva Convention of '51. We certainly have to rewrite the convention. But first, we have to offer an help to these people. And this is the basic dimension, according to my opinion, of European Union. So what is the answer? Certainly to follow Georges was kind enough to talk about Médecins Sans Frontières. Do we have to accept the sharing in between good patients and bad patients? Do we have to say, as a medical doctor, that the heart attack of a Muslim is not the same danger that the heart attack of a Christian? We are saying so for the time being. We are separating and having a preference for the good refugees, not for the bad. This is impossible to accept. Otherwise, there is no international law. There is no possibility of helping the people or developing countries if we have by advance to say that we'll develop only the good countries. So, I don't know the exact answer, but I know very well the question. They are coming in our place, Europe, European Union, because we are richer than them. Yes, because there is a sort of possibility of getting back with their family in a normal life. Of course, the economical situation is not good for all the European countries, not the same. But generosity should be the same. Because the proposal coming from the Commission and still on the table of the European Council is very clear. We don't have to share in between the good and the bad, but to accept Of course, not the same number of them. German generosity is based also on demographic problems and of the economical situation. But I don't want to say that this is the only reason, because this is not true. Angela Merkel, I'm talking about her for the second time, and usually when a French is talking about Germany, this is not exactly with a sort of tenderness. It is because of her that we are able to look facing the refugees in opening heart and hands. In fact, there is a disbalance. But is it possible to get a new attitude or a new share in between the number of people? Yes. Are we ready to stop the flood? We cannot. We are not absolutely out of the problem. How many people receive Lebanon? In Lebanon, 2 million, close to 1.5 million, etc. In Jordan, poor countries without camps. They are in the public, well, they are lost in the public, but well, all these countries are making an effort, and we are not. 500 or 550 millions of European people, the richest of the world, and we are unable to share with 1 or 2 million in addition. This is untrue. There is no political will, but a political attitude, with nationalism coming back, with racism coming back, and unfortunately, racism and nationalism are driving us in the history to big confrontations. So the answer is difficult to build up, but we have to be open to these people. This is just the beginning of globalization in the South against refusal, global refusal in the North, that we cannot afford to accept these people anyway. They will force the door. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and all of you are kindly invited to a small reception either down here or even up there. Stay with us. Thank you.